Today, let's talk about those situations when you must protect your finishing move. I'm Mike Quackenbush, and this is Till We Make It. And I want to follow up on a conversation that I ended up having very recently in the wake of another video that we made. It happens to be called Fantastic Finishers, and I will link to it above in case you missed it. And if for any reason you did miss it, then you need to click subscribe. Hit the notification bell. It will tell you every time we publish a new video, which tends to be about every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And make sure to drop us one of those sweet, sweet likes. Currently, I am in the midst of my 25th anniversary tour, and I'm doing exactly 25 matches as part of this tour. Some of those matches are already done at the time that we are recording this, and there's a handful still ahead of me. But during the course of this 25th anniversary tour, I've gone all over the globe, and I've got to wrestle people familiar to me, and I've got to wrestle people that I am meeting for the very first time. And during the course of this tour, I happened to come across a unique circumstance that I've never come across before, and it made me think about the way in which we need to diplomatically present the idea of protecting some of our proprietary or otherwise trademark moves, most of all, our finishing moves. Over the course of my career, there's been a handful of moves for reasons of time, repetition, or origin that are synonymous with me. There are 4 Quacken drivers and there are 3 lightning locks. And not all that long ago, I happened to be booked on with someone who had asked if, as part of the match, we could be certain that they could kick out of all 4 of my Quacken drivers, which in that moment made me think of this. Well then, what am I left with? And I suppose an easy answer to that would be, well, then there's those lightning locks, right? But that's besides the point. Each of those Quacken drivers are something special to me, and each of them have finished very important matches. Each of them has a certain amount of equity built up into them, and your finishing move has equity built into it too. And that equity is value. It is the value that it accrues from all the matches it has won. And even though whether we win or lose is rarely up to us, that value you build into the finishing move is real. When the time comes to assemble a match, do I think that protecting your finishing move needs to be the very top priority? No, I do not. I think there are a lot of other priorities that need to be considered first, but that doesn't mean that protecting your finisher is of no priority. That is not to say that it is not worth talking about that exact thing. All of the most legendary finishing moves in professional wrestling achieve that status because at some point in time, they were very well protected. Nobody kicked out of those moves, and that kick out was ultimately saved for something exceptionally important, a blow-off match, a giant tentpole event, or something of outstanding significance, so that that moment could be played for its maximum value. And the value that moment gets is directly related to the value built up in the finishing move. That equity, that value transfers to that moment. But if we don't build up any equity or we don't protect the value in our finishing moves, you will never produce that moment. And then, why have the move at all? If it has no value built up into it, if it isn't trying to get you to a great moment, then what is the significance of the move? Why even choose it as your finisher? An important note. Yes, you want to build up equity in your finishing move, and that is so that eventually it can create a moment like the ones that I just described. Do you need to know when that moment is coming? No, you don't. But you do need to make sure you're preserving that equity so that when the correct opportunity arises, this will be ready for that. And if you are careless with the value of that finishing move, that moment will never come. You may find yourself in a scenario just like the one I found myself in, where someone is asking, hey, would it be all right if I kick out of your finishing move, singular or plural? And you may need to have a conversation based on where you're at and the moment that you might be trying to get to one day about protecting your finishing move. And I want to equip you with some ideas for that conversation so you're ready for it when it comes to find you. When I'm in a conversation where I have got to talk about protecting my finishing move, I have discovered that it is critically important to go about it in as diplomatic a fashion as possible. And sometimes the way in which you have the conversation is every bit as important as any argument you're going to put on the table. I don't think you need to feel nervous about saying to someone, look, that's a move I am trying to build value in right now, and I would rather not have someone kick out of it. But alternately, you could escape from it, you could reverse it. There's all these other things that we could do besides you kicking out of that particular move. Most of the time, if I am thoughtful and a bit diplomatic in the way I present that idea, it goes down just fine. But every once and again, for whatever reason, it just doesn't. And then what? In those cases where my diplomacy fails, or the person that I'm booked on with is just not interested in the value I am either trying to build in a move or have already built up in my finishing move, I will offer them this as an alternate option. Instead of kicking out of the move, how would you feel about draping a foot on the bottom rope so that the integrity of the move is somewhat preserved? And thinking back over the course of what's got to have been a couple thousand matches, I cannot think of one instance where one of those two alternatives didn't work, where it did not pan out the way that I hoped that it would, or that I was unable to protect whatever was my finishing move at that time. I do think it's worth mentioning here that the idea of a single finishing move for a wrestler is a very American-centric concept. You will not find that it runs as strongly through Mexican lucha libre, and you'll find an interesting alternate to it from Japanese pro wrestling called signature set. If that's new to you, it might be something for you to explore with your mentor or coach. If trying to design everything like an entire repertoire of moves around a single finishing move proves frustrating for you. And know that there are other ways that you can build value around your finishing move besides avoiding people kicking out of that particular move. You could build an entire ritual around the finishing move. And if that's something you might be interested in, or other performative ideas to help keep value on your finisher, then I don't doubt you'll find a lot of value in my book, 7 Keys to Becoming a Better Performer. A book for fellow professional wrestlers is available in an either print format or a digital one from Amazon.com. And I narrate the audiobook myself. It awaits you over at Audible.